India is on the move, a nation accelerating towards global economic dominance. With a dynamic mix of innovation, resilience and ambition, the Indian economy is rewriting the playbook, capturing global attention as it races toward a brighter future. And this pivotal moment was brought into sharp focus at the recently concluded 10th edition of the Times Network India Economic Conclave held in New Delhi. For a decade, the India Economic Conclave has been the torchbearer of the nation's economic narrative, tackling the most pressing issues and driving conversations that shape policy and progress. This year was no exception. Under the compelling theme, Fast Track to Top 3, the conclave ignited discussions on India's aspirations to cement its place among the world's top 3 economies. Top editorial voices, visionaries, policymakers and industry leaders convened to exchange insights, strategies and solutions to accelerate India's growth story. India is on the move, and the India Economic Conclave remains at the heart of the conversation, shaping the road ahead. In this episode, Trualt Bioenergy's founder and MD, Vijay Nirani, discusses how biofuels can drive sustainable growth.
So we're here with Mr. Vijay Nirani. He's the founder and MD at Trualt Bioenergy. Vijay, thank you for joining us for our 10th edition of the India Economic Conclave. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Now, when you talk about bioenergy, we have a very primitive understanding of what biofuels, what bioenergy was. What's the bioenergy of today used for? What are its usages, and has it evolved from what it was, say, about 20 years from now?
Thank you so much, Aisha, for having us on this phenomenal platform. And this is the most relevant conclave the country always looks forward to. And we're super excited to be part of this for this year. Biofuels is a magic energy that the government has started to realize. What we have currently as a country is a dependency on import of all of our fuel consumption. So over 75 to 80% of the fuel that we consume is all imported. Now, we can mimic the fuel that we consume, be it CNG, we can have it sourced from biomaterials, we can mimic the ethanol, which is produced from biosources. Biofuels in general is the fuels that energize our day-to-day requirement, be it our vehicles, be it our homes, be it the heat that we need. All of these sourced from biological means or biodegradable means or from waste is how the biofuel is termed. And as a country, we are so large and diverse that the most abundance of biomass is what we have. And this is a magic structure that we have to convert the waste that we have into the energy that we need. So broadly, this is what biofuel is, and it is something that can literally change the dynamics of our country, and which is why I think the government is fully geared to push this biofuel story so that we become the leaders of the globe in this space.
So Vijay, you at Trualt Bioenergy, tell me, we've all understood now what biofuels can do, what could be the usages. But you in your business, how is it that you imply this energy, and what all products do you see it being used for, and what is it that you already cater to?
So as a company, we are traditionally from the sugar industry, right? One of the most boring industries that there could be. Now there comes the National Biofuel Policy. With the launch of the National Biofuel Policy, we had so much of opportunities. The spotlight suddenly fell on the most traditional and boring of businesses. Yeah. Be it agriculture, farming, or fuel. There's nothing interesting about how fuel is made, right? But we all need the fuel on a daily basis. So on the backdrop of this, we got into the biofuel space when the Government of India launched the National Biofuel Policy. The idea here was to try and utilize the abundance that we have. This is a story of, it's a very interesting story where we are a story of national Atmanirbharta, we are a story of nation building, we are a story of self-reliance, we are a story of farmer empowerment, we are a story of energy transition, we are a story of being green or clean for the next generations to come, to pass on the baton of Mother Earth. And more importantly, this story, the biofuel story, is something that puts glamour to the most boring of the industries that we just spoke of. Now, what we have, or what Trualt does, is we utilize multiple of these biomass or agricultural waste or municipal solid wastes into creating multiple of value-added products. We currently make first-generation ethanol using molasses, which is a byproduct of sugarcane. We use the damaged grains. Eventually, we'll be using biomass, that is agricultural residue, or the sugarcane leftovers, that's bagasse, to make ethanol. These are all the feedstocks which we as a country have in abundance. Using these, now currently Trualt is making 1G ethanol, where we're currently the largest by established size. We make close to 2 million liters of ethanol per day. And we can make compressed biogas or bio-CNG. It's very alarming as a statistic to learn that over 70 to 80% of the gas that we consume is imported. In spite of having so much of abundance, and there is no science, there's no technology in it. You pick up a 7th standard student studying in a CBSE school and ask him what a gobar gas plant is. Yeah. You simply dump in all the garbage and you get gas. You put the gas into your housing or your cooking requirement. And this is the exact story that we have in abundance. And this is exactly what we can create to fuel our cars, our energy, our daily needs. So that's something that we are doing in abundance. We are setting up over 17, 18 CBG plants in the next 3 years using these biomass, the leftovers available in abundance. That's wealth. That's waste that's available. The third vertical is we are soon planning to venture into sustainable aviation fuel. Now, we are already on the path to creating a clean environment, be it the road transport, right? Or be it the rail transport, by substituting the crude with EVs. Now, electric is already there with, on the roads, it's there on the rails. Now, how do we clean up the skies? You can't put in you can't put in green hydrogen in the skies in the airplanes right now. You can't put in so much of batteries on the airplanes. Now, how do you clean up the skies? It's very simple. You put biofuels into them. You replace the high carbon emitting fuels with low carbon emitting carbon neutral fuel into the aircrafts. So we're setting up one of the world's largest sustainable aviation fuel plants in the days to come in India, worldwide, right, world over. There's a huge opportunity for us to start cleaning up the skies. And again, as a statistic, over 65% of the emissions of the airline industry is through the consumption of fuel. And this, how can we clean the 65% of the emissions? It's only through alternate fuels. And that's where we are doing biofuels, sustainable aviation fuel to clean up the skies. The fourth vertical is we use biomass to make multiple of other downstream chemicals. For example, we have potentials to make isoprenes, which are bio-rubber, right? So wherever you have applications of rubber, you can make it from bio sources. You can make bioplastics. Your single-use plastics can be replicated with polylactic acid, which is again sourced from biomaterials that we end up making. So the universe of biofuels is so large, and it has been right in front of our eyes for so many years. And we must give great kudos to the policymakers, to the government of India, that they're driving this whole sector tremendously now. And it's creating opportunities for many companies like us. And it's creating a sustainable lifestyle to the farmers of our country.
But Vijay, the usage, like you said, has been there for eons when it comes to our country. The raw material is available in abundance. What about the adoption? Because from what I see is the adoption of biofuels still remains very uneven.
On the contrary, we have had such a beautiful way the policy has been driven. 2019 is when the National Biofuel Policy was launched. That's exactly when a beautiful policy called Ethanol Blended Petrol Program was launched. Let me just give you a very interesting story here. The idea that the government had was we start blending 20% of ethanol with petrol by 2030. The policy was so beautiful, and India as a country is such a dynamic, such an absorbing, and such beautiful minds in the country here, that they actually drove this story so beautifully that we ended up achieving our 10-year goal in less than 4 years. We were supposed to start blending 20%. The preponed plan was by 2025. We're almost ready to blend 20% by 2024 itself. Let me give you brief numbers and very hard-hitting number. You know what this 20% of ethanol blending created? It created a savings of close to 80,000 crore rupees in foreign exchange. This 80,000 crores otherwise would have gone to an OPEC country for import of crude. Now that money is going to a farmer sitting in the remotest of village and creating a buying power for the farmer. And when the farmer, the weakest of the guys, have a buying power, the country definitely gets geared up or accelerated to reach the $5 trillion vision that the government has.
Absolutely.
Now again, in terms of the bio-CNG story, Satat is a program that Government of India launched back in 2020. And the idea was to set up over 5,000 CBG plants. Now, gas is something that you can't literally transport very far because you have to store it in a high pressure, high structure sort of a thing. The government was so beautiful, I must tell you. So the first plant that we set up, and it's not just for me, they handheld tiny companies that made 30 crore, 40 crore, 50 crore investments, and they asked us what the trouble here is. Because they know for a fact that if a few companies are successful in achieving this bio-CNG story, where our municipal solid waste or agricultural residue can be created in making gas or biogas, then you're looking at a humongous growth. Yeah. Now, this bio-CNG has become so wide accepted that across board, it is being built. So many large cap companies have pledged to invest billions of dollars in this space. So I must say there is a humongous acceptance to biofuels already, and it is creating a circular benefit to everybody in the value chain, including the government.
Yeah, but you know, Vijay, it's clear that you just highlighted very beautifully as to the multiplier effect and as to how the benefit of adoption of biofuels reaches to the grassroots farmer himself. But tell me, within this, where is India in the pecking order, and what is it that we can learn from other countries like Brazil, for instance, who have adopted this policy very, very beautifully and been very successful at that?
Again, we are only about 35 years late into the biofuel story. So fortunately, unfortunately, we have a brilliant government in place who understands the whole nuances of the potentials of the country, and they're actually trying to polish our country so that we shine brighter. Now, Brazil started this biofuel story back in 1985. Wow. And let me give you a very interesting story, right? So again, the top 5 developed nations have all adopted biofuels to the brink. Brazil being the highest consumer of ethanol. America is second, being the second largest consumer of ethanol. Third is China, again a largely developed country. Fourth is the European Union. And now India has picked up to become the 5th largest in less than 4 years. So that's what the biofuel story has been doing to the country. Now, a very interesting analogy to this. What we have as a country to learn from the developed countries like Brazil, like America. So our current ecosystem allows a blend rate of about 20% into the fuels, into the vehicles that we have today. Brazil in 2001, 2003 launched something called as the flex fuel vehicles, which can consume different variants of fuels. Right? So it can consume 100% of ethanol, or it can consume, it varies from 5% to 100% of ethanol, where you can play with your petrol consumption. So in terms of demand and supply of your fossil fuel to your biofuel, the market becomes very, acceptable of your fuels that are available. So Brazil did this in 2003, which is why the biofuel story they could develop from back then. And I think India is absolutely on the similar roadmap, where we launched our biofuel story, where ethanol just picked up on availability. Now, since the availability will start shooting up year on year, it's the right time for us to start launching the flex fuel vehicles. And when flex fuel vehicles become a reality, it not only becomes cost efficient for the consumer, because as against a liter of petrol that sells for 100 plus rupee per liter, today ethanol is sold at 65 to 70 rupees a liter. Now there is a huge saving of close to 40% on the fuel cost for the consumer. There's not only the cost of, a savings in the cost of for the consumer, there's a humongous carbon saving for the globe that we create. Third thing, the country as a whole benefits because more the adoption of biofuels, less the import of crude, more the local economy gets benefited, because where do we source these from? It's from the localest of, the remotest of villages and the farmers, right? And it's such a beautiful story. The more the adoption, the better the country, the better the economy, and the better the world, the globe eventually becomes.
Absolutely. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, since you're talking about such fast adoption of biofuels, at one side, we're also seeing an as fast and swift adoption of EVs as well. So, what I'm confused with is, do they coexist? Do they replace each other?
So we would always want it to coexist, and we would want to complement each other, because there are spaces where EVs and biofuels become a norm. So Toyota has launched a car called SHEV, Super Hybrid Electric Vehicle. Okay. So what this does is the electrolyzers are launched. They have padded in the car. The EVs are charged. The same EVs are taken into the vehicle, and green hydrogen is formed. They consume water, and hydrogen is what the car runs on. And when the car runs on hydrogen, the EV batteries again gets recharged. So it's all about the science of making the whole ecosystem for the consumer be cost efficient and be as green and clean as possible. Now again, there are places where we just spoke of. How do you put EVs in maritime industry, in the ships where they have to travel so far? Now, how do you put EVs in aircrafts? Yeah. Now, there are multiple of these spaces. How do you put EVs in rockets that you launch to carry your satellites? Now, these are places where you have to replace your fossil with bio. And that is where we tend to complement on each other. Now, again, in terms of positioning, what EV was back in 2006, 2008 is exactly where we are with biofuels in 2004, 2005. We are literally in the cusp of the growth of our story here. And we have a tremendous opportunity for us to scale up from here on. Similar to the story with what we had seen with the EV back in the day. So we don't see EV as a competitor. It is a beautiful option available, or it's a rose available in the bouquet of flowers, right? We might be the orchids in them.
Okay. So where does the orchid see itself in the runway? Because you talked about as to how you're also working on ATFs now. What are the industries you think can fully switch to biofuels?
So, very interesting number is we have the potential to fully cut down on our consumption of petrol. And we can do it as quickly as the next 3 to 5 years. I'll tell you how, and we need a brilliant policy for it, and the government is already putting its head for the next so they had a plan for 2020 to 2025. Now, what is beyond E20, right? So there's something that is already in the works. Now, we have so much of biomass available in the country that it could potentially generate close to 4,000 crore liters of ethanol from biomass alone, not from grains or not from the sugar story. The rice straw that we have, the varieties of agricultural waste that we create, the municipal solid waste, the waste that we sell out on a daily basis, all of them, the industrial effluents, all of these can become a huge value-added products, not waste anymore, to create these fuels so that we can completely cut out on our consumption of petrol. Now, that's the kind of potential this industry has. And with the right policy, okay, why could we achieve this growth in just 4 years? Is because there's this beautiful policy where there was a interest subvention scheme available for putting capex in the space. There was an assured offtake. There was an assured price for it. And India being a beautiful country, when we have visibility on price and some assurances, we can do wonders. The minds in the country are so brilliant, they can do wonders. And that's exactly what we require right now for the incremental story from here on. For us to scale up our 2G business, for us to scale up our aviation fuel, sustainable aviation fuel story, for us to scale up on our green hydrogen story, it's the right policy that we require. We need an assured price, we need an assured offtake, at least for the beginning of the days. We don't need it for an eternity. So at least to handhold the first few companies or for the first few movers so that the technology becomes available for the guys to follow. If that becomes a norm, it's similar to the EV story if we have to put a comparison. We saw the prices of EV be as high as 15 to 20 rupees per unit to today being as low as 2 rupees a unit. It'll be the same story for us. There's no harm in buying the biofuels that we produce today at a little premium. This premium will offset to such a great extent that just by blending 20% of ethanol in today's world, we are saving close to 1 lakh crore rupees of our forex, which is going to the localist economy. Imagine if you're going to save 4 lakh crores of petrol is offset by ethanol standalone. The numbers are mind-boggling, and what it could do for our economy is, again, phenomenal. And again, what it could do for the future generations. Again, we're just joking. Whenever we come to Delhi, it becomes so difficult to breathe because we come from a beautiful city of Bangalore where, just standing outside, we feel like we're in a resort, right? So we have...
Your lakes also have been toxic. Come on.
No, but as compared to here, right? So
yeah.
you can actually feel this. So what are we really passing on to the next generation, right? There's nobility in this. We really have to think about something beyond our economies again. And that is something that biofuels can help us achieve.
Thank you so much, Vijay, for your time. Thank you so much for speaking
Thank you.
with us.
Thank you.